Hello, welcome back to Kraftwerker. I thought I'd go over some of the free VSTs I use pretty much on nearly everything I do, nearly every mix I do. I'm just going to go through them, tell you what they're about, and there will be all the links to where you can get them below. So let's start with, I use Reaper. I love Reaper. And I also use Reaper in the sense that I try and use certain things, which I will go through what I use them for as well, to try and make it as organic as possible. So the idea is that when I mix, I usually record everything at 48 kilohertz raw. Then I stem them to 96 because I feel that the mix sounds clearer. I'd usually do this before I apply any effects to this to the waves. So don't be confused and don't be fooled, and neither am I. You're not adding any information if you stem it higher afterwards. What you record is what you get. So if you then stem it higher, it's not to try and somehow gain any more information out of your wave files. It is basically just to give the system more data to work with when mixing. And to my ears at least, I've said this before, I think they sound a lot clearer and defined, the mix. And if you apply certain things to try to sound it more organic, how would I put organic, as if it's going through a desk and tape, I think it works much better at a higher rate. So that's what I do. So obviously, using Reaper, you've got a massive selection here, and they're called Cockos. And in here is compressors, delays, EQs, gates, pitch shifters. You can clean up certain things with Reaper, Dynamics Processor. You can get to, where is it now? The subtract, so that's basically to clean up tracks. You've got Reattune, which I never use, Reverb, which I don't actually like that much. This one, however, the X-Comp, so a multiband compressor, is magic. The most of these are, however, completely transparent. They don't really add any coloration to it. So anything that I want to fix before I apply any real effects, or afterwards some last shaping, I usually use the Cockos, the rear stuff. And the reason is because they don't apply any additional coloration. So if I want to have a Neve style EQ sounding thing happening, that will do the main work. And then the other last bit of shaping will then be done with the Cockos stuff that's included in Reaper. The reason being I don't want any additional coloration than what I have chosen. Either, hey, it's okay. Sorry, my dog hates the postman and she was gonna go nuts if I didn't stop her. So anyway, that's the whole point here, is that you that I don't use any of these, which are very, very good. You can only use them, absolutely. But if you're wanting any sort of coloration, either tape or desk, transform, any of this stuff, you use whatever VSTs you need to do that, and I literally only use these for any additional shaping. Some examples is shaping some EQ or compression before on vocals or guitar, before and after. Usually I get a basic mix done with all my VSTs that I want, any sort of desk or tape shaping, and then if there's any slight variations I still want to add afterwards for EQ or compression, I then use the Cockos stuff, because I know then that I'm not going to add any more coloration, and I'm not pushing the other VSTs somewhere where they possibly can't go. So any kind of last little bit of shaping I do with this. And yeah, there is more than enough to choose from. Obviously in there is also all the JS stuff, tons and tons of stuff that comes free with Reaper, and there's more stuff that, available that you just download. There's just been a I think Glenn Fricker has just put out a video, I think a week ago or something, explaining how to load these JS plugins into Reaper. I've never done it, I've never tried it. I don't really need it. Possibly at some point. Anyway, so there's tons of stuff here. I mean, really, there's you do not need to any additional VSTs if you've got Reaper. You actually really don't, unless you're going into any sort of additional coloration, which is what we're going to go to next. So I have got I've made some videos about, because I'm talking about free amp sims, so I'm not going to talk about Amplitube, although you can argue that Amplitube is free if you get the basic free version in conjunction with the online shop, where you just buy additional stuff. It comes with great amp, great cab, and some basic effects, and you know, depending on your style of music, that is probably more than you need. Anyway, so the Nalex Amp sim, just done 2 videos for that. The Ignite STL Tones IR loader, so cab emulation, where you can load in your own IRs, which I use pretty much all the time if I'm not using, and sometimes if I am using Amplitube. The Stereo Touch Voxengo. Now this one, I'm not 100% sure, I can't remember if this was free or not. The TR5 Classic Comp from MUltimedia. I think I got it free, but I'm not so sure if it is free. And I think the way I got it free was there was some sort of promotion or something, and I'm going to add it there because I think it was, and I think you can get it free as part of their Sound Tank library thing, but I'm absolutely not sure now, so check that out. The other thing that I use quite often, is probably the only delay I really use, is the Temp delay by Voxengo. Airwindows has got a massive library of stuff, and two of the things I use very often is their tape emulation and their Neve desk emulation. So basically what they're doing is it's just one slider which adds the coloration of either tape or the different desks. Dead Duck software, I think everybody knows about that. They've got a full range of software. However, I don't like all of their stuff. I think a lot of the stuff is actually pretty crap, but some of the stuff is really, really good. The BOD TSE audio, that is the Tube Screamer, is it? Yeah, I think so. Actually, let's quickly go and show you the Nalex Amp sim. So Nalex have got a lovely set. So you've got, these are the only ones I downloaded. The Amplex, please look at the video, I'll link to it. The Crunchman, the Gerbert, which is a Dietzel amp. Pectifier, obviously, rectifier. Powerbox is a power amp, and you can put in the settings of the biasing, some basic tone controls, and how much your tube and the different types of tubes that you're using. The Amplex is basically a system. Look at the last video, please. It is a system where you load in text files which have all the characteristics of the amp, and thereby that one amp can be any amp if you know what to tweak. So that is that. Ignite. So I think Glenn Fricker got in touch with the STL Tone guys, and they are now doing the IR loader. And what I like about this IR loader is that it's perfectly simple, but it has everything you need. You can load two IRs, one on each side. You can then have it stereo or mono, and if it's a mono, you can change the balance between how much of one speaker to other speaker, so you can blend the two speakers. You've got a high pass and low pass filter on each side. You've got some delay and some resonance, and you've also got room. So the resonance, I've got a suspicion what they're trying to do there is the resonance between the speaker and the power amp. The room, or it's possibly just the cab resonating. I'm not 100% sure. I know that I've got usually have it pretty much off. The room obviously adds some sort of room ambience to it, but it's fake. However, it sounds great. Then one of the best amps for high gain and metal stuff that's ever been produced, and it's free, is the STL Emissary. It's just insane. It is just the most amazing free amp that you can possibly think of for high gain stuff. So yeah, I use that pretty often, going down that route. The Voxengo stuff is quite interesting because some of it is really, really useful. Where is it now? So you've got an EQ, an overtone EQ, which is quite interesting, and one I usually, well, the ones I often use are the stereo touch and the temp delay. And the tempo delay is good because it's a stereo delay, so you can choose two sides with slightly different delays, so it gives a really nice, it's a really interesting delay to use, and quite pliable to what you want. Out of all these, I still haven't found, well, I have found one, but I actually don't like the sound of it, a reverb. I'm just putting this in because I forgot to put this on the list. So I've completely forgot the Audio Assault, but it's probably because they're not free. Unfortunately, I bought all of these. The only verb that I use is this one, and then there's another one from, I'll get to that, sorry, I'm jumping around. So Airwindows, let me just check, give you a look at Airwindows. Airwindows is cool, and you should have a link to the guy's website. So channel 7, so if you look at it here, you choose your console by the slider, so it goes from Neve to API to an SSL. Then you can change the drive and obviously the output. Now, very basic, but it does exactly what you expect. It just adds that kind of transformer warmth and slight grid distortion to the signal. The tape is exactly the same thing, although I've got two different tape ones here. This is the one which has all the different aspects of the tape. I'll show you another tape one later, which I also like, but there's a problem with that one. So Airwindows is amazing. They've got great stuff. You should just go through their stuff. Dead Duck software. Now this is where I've got a slight issue. So they've got everything. Pans, crushers, channel strips. This channel strip is really cool because they've got literally a full channel strip. It's really low on CPU usage, so using this is absolutely brilliant. It does have a slight coloration to my ear, but I don't think it was deliberate. But otherwise, it works perfectly. And what I really also like is that you can change. So you've got a gate, a comp, an EQ, high pass, low pass filter, and a limiter for each track, right? For example. But you can also change, which I find amazing, is that you can change which comes first. Does the gate come first, or the comp come first, or the EQ come first? And you do this by these buttons down here. So you can change the order in which things happen. The comp sounds great. The EQ is a little bit confusing just the way the buttons are laid out. I've not really tried the gate properly because I always use the Reaper's own gate. But the high pass, low pass filters are great. The limiter works, so no bother. It's quite good. But the ones I don't like from them is their reverb, overdrive. Some of their the other stuff is not, just doesn't do it for me. So I've never really used it. The tilt EQ is quite useful, but again, I don't really use them very often. So these are things I use. I'm trying to put in things that I use fairly often, and that is free. The BOD TSE audio, I always get confused. BOD TSE audio. So this is a Tech 21 bass driver clone, and it's just brilliant. Everything you need, simple, and works straight out the box. So I usually blend this with other bass signals, either through Amplitube or other DI signals. Where are we? So I'm gonna jump to these quickly. These two are absolute finds, right? I mean, they really are. So I'm gonna go to the mastering here. So these are fantastic. So this is a compressor, and it just sounds amazing, and it works, and it's like the only compressor you need, in my opinion. It's got some good presets. I use it on drum buses, I use it on master buses, I use it for vocals quite often. Brilliant. And the next one, which is crazy that it's free, is a compressor and equalizer, multiband equalizer. So considering how useful this is, high pass, low pass, then I can dip frequencies with it, kind of like a so it's like an equalizer, multiband equalizer, and multiband compressor put together, but you've got really tight control over each band that you are compressing, with your ratio, your gain, your threshold, and your Q setting. So it gets really, I use it so often on guitars where palm muting comes in. You know, when you're palm muting distorted guitars, you've got that weird bass build up around the 20 hertz, a 200 hertz range, and you can just dip that out without it sounding weird, because the way it dips it, it doesn't do that squashing. It just fits in. So that's what I use this for pretty much all the time. It is a fantastic EQ and compressor style. It's just, yeah, very useful, for free as well. The Thomas Mundt LoudMax is pretty much, at some point it gets onto my master bus and it stays there, and all you do is, it's like a completely transparent limiter. So you set your output decibels and then your threshold, and it just keeps pushing everything up, but it doesn't color the sound at all. It's as if it can't. It just, you can just push it and push it and push it, and it just doesn't seem like it's destroying the mix. It's a really clever thing. Now to my favorite, variety of sound. Everybody knows this, but here's the problem with it. Their stuff is so good. I used to use these all the time. This is a Neve style channel strip, right? This is a channel strip as well, but with a tube. And I use this quite a bit as well. It sounds really, really good. Really, really good. This one is my favorite. This is the this is basically a tape emulation, and I really, really love this one. I used to always use it on the master bus. The Epic Verb is also very, very good, actually incredibly good. There's a but to everything I'm saying, but by the way, this is like a weird chorusy delay thing, which I've used a few times. I'm trying to find my favorite piece of kit here. Density. Yeah, so this was my absolute favorite compressor, and this is where the but comes in. The problem with all of these things is that the variety of sound does not have a 64-bit version yet. They are ancient. I think the last stuff was put out in 2009 or something like that, which means that there's no 64-bit versions of the stuff. In Reaper with the bridging, it works fine unless you get into high usage territory. Once you start using quite a few of these bridged VSTs, it starts glitching and it becomes unusable. And my machine is pretty good, so it's just, I think it's the bridging to the 32-bit that's the issue. So it would be amazing if the person who's done these makes 64-bit versions, because I would pay good money for these, absolutely, especially this compressor and the tape emulation. They were my absolute favorites. There's another one from them which is really cool. So if any of you are still working on a, is it this one? Yeah, so this one is a full channel strip from start to finish, with selectable which is on and off, which comes first, which comes second. So you've got your saturation, your input saturation, high pass and low pass, tube emulation, boosting, your EQ section, compression section, everything in this one, and it sounds good and it works perfectly, and it's all one channel strip. And if you use good channel strip on each track, you can get quite close to, and with the high sampling rate, you can get a nice desk sound out of your mixes, which I think is still probably a go-to, because it just sounds pleasing to the ear. So these are pretty much the VSTs that I use. Sorry, I'm not going to give examples because the video will be 2 hours long. Check them out yourself. They're easy to download. Try them out. Dump them if you don't like them. So these are the ones I pretty much use all the time. The reason I added the variety of sound ones is because I did actually use them on all the stuff. I've got some additional ones now, paid ones and stuff, which I use, and just because they're not bridged, I kind of gravitate towards them rather than the variety of sound. Otherwise I would probably use variety of sound stuff on pretty much most of the things I do. So anyway, maybe we should start a campaign and get some money together for and give it to the guy to make all his VSTs 64-bit. I'm sure he would appreciate it. Anyway, links down below, and please subscribe, please like and share. That would be great. Thank you very much. Till next time.